Let me get that, got it. Okay, welcome to class. My name's Darren, and today this is actually the hardest knitting class that you'll ever take if you're a beginner. So the hardest thing about knitting is learning the very, very beginning steps. So if you find yourself struggling a little bit, or if it doesn't make sense right away, then just be really patient with yourself. We're all going to learn at our own pace, and just know it does take practice. So when you leave class today, you'll have all the knowledge to learn the skills that you need. And then after you have a chance to practice a little bit more, then you'll be able to make this cowl. And you might be able to start it tonight. You might be able to start it in a day or two, but just depending on how much time you have to practice, you could totally make this cowl probably by the end of the week, just depending on what you're up to. So just don't get frustrated at the beginning, because it is a skill you have to learn. So I want to show you a few yarns that we have. This is the yarn I'm going to be knitting with today in class. I'm going to be knitting with a cream color though. This is a very popular yarn that we have. It's called Wool Ease Thick and Quick, and it works up very fast. This is available on michaels.com or on lionbrand.com. You can pop into a Michaels store and see all the colors. There's a lot of really great colors. This is my new favorite yarn. It's called Local Grown, and the yarn is made in America and processed in America, and the sheep are actually also raised in America. They're from Montana, and the yarn is made in North Carolina. And it's 100% wool. It comes in a lot of great colors. It's my new favorite. And then an old favorite for everybody loves, this one is called Wool Ease. And this is 20% wool and 80% cotton. So I'm sorry, 80% acrylic. So this is a wool acrylic blend. And this is a very popular yarn, so it's a good one to practice with. So any other questions? Anything else about the yarn we're using today? So if you want to go ahead and switch the view to the view of my hands, we'll go ahead and get started. Take this off. So just a little bit about yarn, and if you're buying yarn, you do want to look at the label. And is that upside down? Is that showing upside down on your screen?
No, you're all good.
Okay, it looks upside down on my screen. Okay. So if whenever you're buying yarn, you want to look at the label. This yarn is a number 6. It's a super bulky, and that's talking about how thick the yarn is. This one is a number 4, and it's a medium weight, and you can see it's much thinner. So yarns do come in like different sizes and different thicknesses. A 0 is almost like thread, and then it gets larger and larger up to a 6, and then a 7 it's basically larger than a 6, and it can be anything larger than a 6. So it might be just a little bit bigger, or it might be like as thick as somebody's arm. It could be anything. So a 7 is just everything that's really, really bigger than a 6. You also want to look here, and it's going to recommend a needle size for you. And this one is saying 13 or a 9mm. And that's 2 ways of saying the exact same thing. And that's talking about how thick the needle is as well. So depending on how thick this needle is, will depend on how tight or how loose your stitches are. So you want to try to stay right close to where this is. You can go up or down a needle size for certain projects, and it won't matter so much, but that's a good guide to knowing where to start. So that's the most important things that we need to know from the label. Okay. And today I'm using these wooden needles, and these are a size 13, which is recommended. Okay. Any questions about the yarn or about the needles as I get ready to go on?
Nothing yet, so let's start some casting on.
So the first thing we're going to do is start with a slip knot. So the slip knot is the first thing. That's how we attach the yarn to our needles. Now, there are many, many ways of tying a slip knot. So I'm going to show you this way, and this is a very simple way. But if you already know how to crochet, or if you know how to tie knots, then you may already know a different way to tie a slip knot, and however you tie it is fine. So this is just another way. So I call this way, it's short over long. So this is the tail. So this is the short piece. And then this piece is connected to my ball of yarn. So this is the long piece. So you lay it out in a circle, and you put the short piece over the long piece. And then you put your hand right in the center of that circle and you sneak under it. And then you want to hold the tail and your working yarn together so it doesn't slip through. And you're just going to grab onto that tail and bring it through. I'm going to show you this more than once. And that creates the slip knot. And you know you did it correct if when you pull it, it just pulls out and you have nothing. So you lay it out like this. You put the short piece over the long piece. You put your hand in the center. You sneak under. You hold your working yarn and the tail together so they don't slip through. You just grab hold of that tail and just kind of loop it around your finger and pull it back through. And you get this great big loop. And then the reason it's called a slip knot is you can just kind of slip it until it's the right size that you want. Does that make sense? Do we have any questions about the slip knot?
Nope. Just some questions on some other little random things, but we're all good to go.
And when I tie a slip knot in real life, this is how I do it. It's super easy. And if you think about it too much, you're going to make it really hard. So just don't put too much thought into the slip knot. Okay, so we knit with 2 needles. We have one in our right hand and one in our left hand. And we're going to take our slip knot and we're going to pop that right on our left hand needle. We want to cinch it up so that it's on there, but it should move very, very smoothly. You don't want it to be tight. So we don't want anything to be tight. We're not pulling anything tight, but we do want it cinched up kind of snug, okay? And we're going to hold that in our left hand. And then we're going to take our other needle in our right hand. And this is called, what I'm going to teach you now is called casting on. And this establishes the foundation of our knitting. And this is this is how we get started. And if we cast on like 10 stitches or maybe 20, that would be wide enough to make a scarf. If you cast on 100 stitches or 200, then that might be big enough for a baby blanket, depending on what size yarn and what size needles you're using. So the cast on will determine how wide your piece is. So for class today, I'm just going to cast on about 20 just for practice. And this is called the knitted on cast on because this is very, very similar to the knit stitch. And I'll demonstrate this many, many times. So you take your right hand needle and we're going to insert it through our slip knot going front to back, just like this. Let me go a little closer. So you hold it in place with your finger and we go front to back and we cross our needles over and make an X. And then we're going to wrap the right hand needle. We're going to wrap our yarn around it. And then we're going to pull the right hand needle back through that slip knot, bringing the yarn that we wrapped with it. And then you pull it just so you have a big enough loop to work with. And we have to take this loop on our right hand needle and put it over on the left hand needle. But we're not just going to pop it over just like that. It has to be a little more complicated than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our left hand needle, it leapfrogs over the stitch and it comes back towards our thumb. And we're going to follow the needle up and we're going to sneak up behind it and scoop it up that way. And then we're going to cinch it up on our needle, not tight. We want it to smooth nicely. And now I have 2 stitches. I have my slip knot and my first knitted stitch that counts as 1 and 2. Now I'm going to demonstrate this several times. So you always then go to the stitch that's closest to the tip of your needle. So you enter it going front to back. So I'm entering it right here, front to back. You hold your needles in the shape of an X. So what I'm doing is I'm putting both of my needles in my left hand. And then my right hand is available to do other things that I need to do, like wrapping my yarn. If you try to hold your needles in both hands, and it makes it hard to wrap it. So put everything in your left hand and use your right hand to wrap. Now we have to wrap it going counterclockwise. We have to go this way. And so if you think about this as the faces of a clock, and it's 3 o'clock, I hold my yarn at the number 3. So I'm going 3, 2, 1, blast off, and we go around. Okay, and then I'm going to pull my right hand needle back through, bringing up that loop, pull up a loop just big enough to work with, and then I'm going to leapfrog with my left hand needle, leapfrog over that loop back towards my thumb, and I'm going to sneak up behind that stitch and scoop it up, and then cinch it up, making sure that I'm doing everything that it's not going too tight. Okay. Now here's a little kind of a nursery rhyme you can use to help you remember. You go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, get in line Jack, because Jack has to get in line with all the other stitches. Okay, so what do you have? What questions can I answer? What is there a certain step that's not clear or not showing up well? What can I do to help?
All right, nothing just yet.
Okay.
People might just be trying it out, so let's do a few more.
Okay, let me show you again just to make sure we're getting it. So there's another little rhyme to remember, or little saying. You stab it, you choke it, but not too hard. You scoop out its guts, and then you stab it again. So I'm a pacifist, so I prefer the first method, but you live your life according to your own philosophies. But remember, it's just 4 easy steps. Enter this 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is very important that we wrap it counterclockwise. You can go under the needle and then bring it to the top. You can go to the left and then a hard turn to the right, whatever helps you remember it, but we need to wrap it in this direction. We pull it through, bring up a loop, and it's also very important that we scoop this up from the back. If we don't do everything correctly, we'll end up with twisted stitches, and that's going to be a problem later on. So you want to get in the habit of doing it correctly. I taught myself how to knit, and I was doing it incorrectly for about 2 years, and I had twisted stitches, and it was fine. It wasn't on the news. Nobody came to my house and criticized me, but once I wanted to learn how to do it the correct way, it was very hard to learn the correct way. So if you can learn it the correct way, it'll save yourself trouble later on. Are we making stitches? Do we have questions?
I
feel like
think
there
everyone's
should be.
busy making stitches, so there are no questions just yet. So,
Okay, well, I feel like if there are usually questions at this point. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask them. So let's cast on 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just do 10. So we'll have enough to work with, but not too many. So it'll make it easy to get through the row. So are we ready to move on to the knit stitch? So this is the cast on.
Oh, so Darren, maybe that the 4th step, if you can maybe do that one again.
Which
Someone's
one?
just asking for it. I think the 4th step where you put
When scooping it up?
when you scoop it, yeah.
Okay, so we enter the stitch, wrap the yarn counterclockwise, bring it through, and then your natural instinct is going to be to just kind of put it over that way. That's the easiest way. But what we're going to need to do to keep it from twisting is we're going to leapfrog over the stitch and come back and kind of towards our thumb, or you can touch your thumb for like home base. And then you're going to follow that needle up and you're going to sneak it up from the back. So instead of going this way, we're just approaching it from the back. So you just approach it from the back, scoop it up, and then cinch it up. And then you always want to make sure everything is, mine are getting a little tight because I'm focusing too hard on them, but they should flow smoothly on your needle.
Oh, and can we see the bottom, the belly of there we go. Yes, someone wanted to see what the finished edge is going to look like.
Yep. And yours might not look like this. Your stitches will probably be loose and tight and shaped funny. And that's perfect. That's exactly what they should be on your first day. As you practice, they will become more even and they'll start to look much nice. It just happens. It's just like magic. So If yours don't look this neat and nice, don't lose heart. You'll do fine. Okay.
Yeah, so the finished edge shouldn't be too tight necessarily, but it should, at one point, it'll be even.
Yeah, it'll even out as you practice.
Right.
Don't lose faith if it's not looking perfect now. So
right, tension, of course. If it's very tight, then you're probably they're knitting it a little too tightly, a little too tense.
let me show you a couple of things that can make them too tight. So one problem that people do is if you look at a knitting needle, the way it's shaped, it's pointing at the bottom and it gradually gets bigger to the thickest part. So this is the 13 millimeters up here. And then it tapers and gets very small. So if you are working down here on the tips and you're knitting like this, and then you're transferring it over and you just put it on the tip and then you knit another stitch and you're just working on the tip like that, what happens is by the time you want to push these up, there's not enough slack. And when they have to fit on that bigger part of the needle, they become very, very tight. So one thing you want to do is make sure so keep your stitches on the fat part of the needle. Make sure you're going all the way into the fattest part of the needle. Wrap your yarn and don't pull it tight. Kind of let it rest loose in your hand. When you bring it through, make sure you're putting it on the fattest part of the needle, always. And you see, mine's I'm not pulling it tight. And then when you scoop it up, don't let it rest here. Bring it all the way up. When you pull this out, and you might not even have to, don't get in the habit of pulling it tight here. If you're letting them super loose, then you want to snug it up just a bit. But what's another thing, when I first started knitting, I would pull it tight right here because I thought it had to be shaped around the needle, but that's not the case. You just want it to fit nicely on the needle. Does that maybe help?
I think so, yeah. A lot of people were doing it very tightly. And for Diane, if you could repeat that nursery rhyme, that was so fun.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
You go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, get in line, Jack. So he has to get in line with the other stitches. Okay, how do we feel?
I think we're good.
Let's look at the knit stitch. So once we do the cast on, we only do it once in the project, and that determines how wide the piece is going to be. And then once we start knitting, that's going to add length. So you might knit it long enough to be like a washcloth. You might knit it long enough to be a hand towel, or you might go clear up and make it long enough to be a scarf. You can do whatever you want. So let's learn the knit stitch. It's very, very similar to the cast on. So you enter the stitch, wrap the yarn, bring the yarn through, and this is where it's different. You kick it off the end, and it's going to feel like you shouldn't be doing that, but sometimes the things that you feel you shouldn't be doing are the most fun, right? That's kind of a philosophy of mine. So we're going to go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, off jumps Jack. So this time he doesn't get in line, he jumps off. Or you can stab it, choke it, scoop out its guts, and throw it off a cliff. So whatever philosophy of life you live, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes when I'm knitting and I'm not looking at my work, I'm looking at my work through my camera, my depth perception gets off. So if I do something goofy, that's why. And if I try to look under it, then I end up going down here. So you go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, off jumps Jack. Excuse me. So now what we're doing is one by one, we're taking the stitches from the left-hand needle and we're knitting them and we're transferring them to the right-hand needle. So I didn't really count mine, but if I had 10 stitches and I transfer them, then I'd have 1 stitch, 2 stitch, and I'd keep losing ones. I'd be subtracting 1 and adding 1 to this side. So we're doing them 1 by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to get to the end of the row and show you how to handle the end, and then I'll take questions and we'll do it again. I just want to get to the end stitch quickly to show you what the end looks like. When new knitters get to the last stitch, for some reason, everybody's always like, oh, I'm at the last stitch. So what do I do for the last stitch? How do I, you don't do anything different. The last stitch wants to be treated just like every other stitch. So we're not going to treat it differently or discriminate against it. We're going to just go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, off jumps Jack. And so now you see I have 0 stitches on my left hand, and all of my stitches are now moved over to my right hand. And yours might look like this. You know, all you want to do is just kind of straighten it up a little bit. I like to give mine just a little gentle snug. If you just do a little gentle snug, that kind of evens things up a little bit. It lines everything up nice so you can kind of see what you've done. And then what you're going to do is you're going to switch hands. You're going to put your stitches back in your left hand, and you're going to put the empty needle on your right hand. And then you're going to start again and do the same thing again, just the knit stitch. So we've got our cast on edge. We've got our first row of knitting, and we're going to continue on knitting. We don't do the cast on again. So what questions do we have? I'm going to rest right here until we see if they have any questions.
Yeah, one, who was this? Kimberly was just a little confused, but I told her that we're going to repeat it. So we'll
anything
repeat.
specifically
Nothing
or
specific just yet?
What was it?
I think, yeah, no, nothing specific just yet.
Okay.
Just with repetition.
Yeah, so I've got all of my stitches in my left hand. So I enter the stitch, wrap the yarn, pull it through, and transfer it over.
Someone says, yeah, when they knit the first stitch, it always seems loose.
That's normal.
Yep.
That's very normal. I'll explain why here in a second. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Are we making stitches? Are we having some success? This must be an advanced group.
Do you hold the yarn in your fingers for tension? Someone wants to know.
So the way you hold your yarn, it's a very individual thing. So I'm holding my yarn on my right hand, and I'm kind of tensioning it like this, kind of like pulling it there to tension it a bit right now, but that's not how I normally knit. The way I'm knitting here, teaching you, is called British or Western knitting, where you hold your yarn in your right hand. And sometimes people, when they knit like this, they wrap it around their finger and they flick it around. I can't do that. I can't. They can flick it really fast and they tension the yarn around their finger. I can't do it. So there are many, many ways of holding it in your right hand. I want to talk about this end stitch, and then I'm going to show you another way to hold your yarn. Okay. So sometimes the last stitch tends to be very loose, and then sometimes this stitch also will look very loose. And the reason that is because knit stitches are only ever truly happy and well-behaved if they have a stitch on the bottom, on the top, and on the left and on the right, because that holds the tension. It holds the tension evenly. And if they don't see the side stitches, it doesn't have a stitch above it, and it doesn't have a stitch beside it. It has one below and one on this side. So same over here, it only has 2 stitches. It doesn't have 4. So it's going to seem a little loose. But by the time we do the next row and we get one up above this one, then it's going to even out, and you'll be surprised how nice it looks. And your tension will also even out and become much nicer as you practice. So once the stitches become second nature to you and you can start doing them without thinking, maybe you can like have a chat with a friend and watch TV while you're knitting, that's when your knitting will even out and become the nicest. So just try to relax and enjoy it. So how I usually tension and hold my yarn when I normally knit, and British knitting is the more popular way, so that's why I try to teach that way. This is a little different. So I hold my hand in my working yarn in my left hand, and I tension it between my fingers and I knit like this. So this is another way you can do it. And this is how I do it. This is kind of an odd way.
Mhm.
And one other way you can do it is you tension it like this and you hold it out with your finger and you're scooping it like this. And that's more of a continental method, which I don't do. I don't do it well. I don't like to knit that way, but maybe that might be your favorite way. Everybody likes to knit differently, but I throw with my left hand, which is an odd way. I always say that's the way weirdos knit because, I just kind of do strange things sometimes. How do you hold your yarn, Giselle? Do you hold it in your left or your right?
No, I do. I hold it on the right, I guess the European way.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a crocheter first, and one of our viewers is a crocheter, but she prefers to hold it on her left. So like you said, it's totally just the way you start doing it once and you get used to it and then you feel comfortable with it. But
Yeah.
there is no
So
wrong way.
usually crocheters, I know you're a crocheter, but usually
Mhm.
I crocheted first too. And usually crocheters will guide the yarn in their left hand because that's what you're used to as a crocheter. So
Right, right.
just depending, and it's 100, it's not wrong either way. What you do need to make sure is that you're entering the stitch the correct way. So entering it
Mhm.
front to back, you're wrapping your yarn the correct way, counterclockwise, you're pulling it through correct, and then you won't get twisted stitches. So I don't like to tell people they have to do things a certain way. I don't like to be told what to do, and I don't like to
Right.
follow rules. But these rules are very important, so you really do need to follow them. But after you get the basic steps of this down, you can hold your yarn however you want. You can tension it however you want. There's probably 100 different ways. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Are we making this? Are we knitting? Are we on the second row? How are we doing?
Oh, let's see. I'm following along with you too. I think I'm on my third row. What about you guys? How are your swatches coming along? Write to me.
Always happy to take questions if there are any. Do we want to see the cast on again? How much time do we have?
Oh, we have about half hour. We're halfway there. Let's see. Someone's doing great. Oh, Kyle, my grandmother taught me all crafty stuff. I would forget the knitting when we left the driveway. That's too bad.
Well, that is normal, actually.
Yes.
So you do have to practice. So if you guys take this class and you're doing fine now, if you pick it up like 2 weeks from now, you might forget everything. So I do encourage people, like after you take this class, maybe tonight before you go to bed, or maybe like after dinner or something, try to knit a row or two. Try to maybe tomorrow morning knit one row, tomorrow afternoon knit a row. You don't have to practice for hours and hours at a time, but just practice like for maybe 10 or 15 minutes throughout the day. And you'll start to develop the muscle memory in your hand. And that's also why I tell new knitters when they're practicing, only cast on like 10 or 20 stitches, no more than that. So that way you can quickly knit through the row and move on to the next row. And you can go back and forth quickly and see how your work's looking, all right? And even if your work looks horrible, remember, this is practice. So I encourage people, don't take it off and rip it out. Keep all of that horrible knitting. And as you get better, it'll start to get better and look better, and you'll be able to see how much progress you've made. And then when you start your real project, then you can rip it out. But it's nice to see like, oh, this was a mess. It got a little better. It got messy again, and now it looks really good. So sometimes it's nice to see that progress. So, but it does take, the real learning happens when it's in your hands and you're practicing, and it'll take a little bit of time. So don't forget to practice.
Oh, and yes, Julie M would like to see the cast on again, please.
Okay. Quickly, and then we do have a lot to cover, but I wanted to just briefly touch that again. Now that we have a little experience with yarn, it might make more sense and it might stimulate a question or two. So we enter the stitch, wrap the yarn, bring it through, and transfer it over. in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, get in line, jack. And we're doing our work on the thickest part of the needle. We're holding it loosely in our hand. We're not pulling things tight. If your stitches, only if your stitches are super, super loose, do you want to pull them tight? Like you don't want to let your stitches be like this. You don't want to just like let them be as big as they want. You know, you do want them to be a little snug. So, but keep a very loose hand. And every now and then check and make sure that they're sliding nicely, okay? Was there a certain spot on the cast on we had a question? So in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, get in line, jack. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I do encourage also my new knitters to make sure you count your stitches. If you have 10 or 15 or 20, whatever you have, count them at the end of each row to make sure that you're not adding or losing stitches, because it's real easy to add a stitch by mistake or lose a stitch. And you want to make sure you're maintaining the right number of stitches, okay? And that's the cast on. So then the knit stitch, enter the stitch, wrap the yarn, bring it through, transfer it over. So in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, off jumps jack. And that is the knit stitch. So I want to try to do 2 rows quickly so I can show you how to add a new ball of yarn. Well, I'll just finish this row and then I'll add it. And then we'll, as I'm knitting, we can take any questions that you have. I'll be glad to take your questions. Does that make more sense now with the cast on? Did that help?
I think so. Wait, what do you do if you added a stitch somewhere? So some people might have been adding stitches by mistake.
Well, at this point, as you're practicing, it's really easy to add a stitch. And one way you might be adding them is right here at the beginning. So let me show you how this looks. So here's my working yarn. And if you watched how you're working yarn, my working yarn goes through this loop right here. It goes over my needle and then towards the back. So my working yarn is right here in the front. And so this is where I want to knit, right here. Now, sometimes your working yarn will be twisted. So watch what happens. I have 1 stitch there. If my working yarn is twisted to the back, you see how that looks like 2 stitches now. And so you might knit here by mistake and then knit here, and then you've added a stitch. So before you start your second row, I want you to test it. Here's the test. If you just kind of give it a gentle snug here and you can kind of see your working yarn, just direct it to the front and then pull it down and you have 1 stitch, then you know it's right. So you want to be able to see your working yarn right from the beginning. If your working yarn is in the back, if it's hiding in the back, if it's sneaking to the back, you know something's wrong. If something's hiding and sneaking, then that's a sign you need to pay attention. So give it the little test. I've got 2 stitches right here. Give it the little test. Whoops, that changed into 1 stitch. So make sure you're not adding a stitch there. But if you are adding stitches now with practice, that's fine, because it's just practice. Just count how many stitches you have and try to maintain that number. And if you've added a stitch, maybe you can look back in that row that you just knitted and be like, yeah, there was that weird thing at the beginning, or something in the middle was weird. You might be able to track down where you made that mistake. But as you practice, you'll be surprised, it'll start to even out and you'll be able to maintain the stitches. Okay. So as you're knitting, you're either going to finish the entire ball of yarn, or maybe you want to change colors to make a stripe, or maybe somebody sneaks up behind you and cuts your yarn when you're not looking. That would be a dirty trick, wouldn't it? But any of those situations happen, you're going to have to join a new ball of yarn. Now you might be joining the same color. If you ran out of yarn, you might be continuing with the same color, or you might be adding a different color. So I'm going to add a different color to show you how to do that. But this is the same method for joining a new ball of yarn, the same color or a different color. So here's my old working yarn. Keep that tail out of the way, but here's my old working yarn. There's not enough here to work with, so I don't want to knit with that. So I'm just going to hold it out of the way. I'm just going to kind of hold it in the back Nothing fancy. I'm just holding it out of the way. Now here's my new ball of yarn. So I want to leave a tail big enough for finishing. So I'm not going to knit with this tail. So I'm just going to hold it with the other tail. I'm just going to hold it out of the way. Nothing fancy, nothing special. I'm just holding them out of the way so I don't knit with them. Now, usually my working yarn would be coming out of that stitch, but because we're adding a new one, it's not coming out of the stitch, but I'm going to hold it right there where it would be if it were connected. So this is my working yarn. That's the most convenient place for me to put it for knitting. And all you do is you go in through the front door, run around the back, climb through the window, off jumps Jack. Wait a minute, I didn't do anything different at all. Did you see what I did different? Right? There was nothing different. The only thing you want to do is make sure you're not knitting with these tails. And then you just start knitting and you just knit like normal. And you just keep on knitting. There's nothing to see here. Just move it along. How do we feel about that, Giselle?
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Well, you're going to
Nothing-
see videos and people are going to tell you, well, people have created all kinds of solutions to solve this problem that does not exist. They'll tell you to hold two yarns together and knit with two at the same time for the first couple of stitches. They'll come up with all, and you really don't have to do any of that. So just join the new ball of yarn, move it along. I don't like to come up with complicated solutions for problems that don't exist.
Right.
All right, now I finished my
Maybe
row.
we just tell them to make sure if they see that the ball of yarn is finishing up, obviously try not to end it in the middle of a row. Always do it at the beginning of a row.
Always, if you end it in the middle, then your stitches are always going to look a little funny there. So, I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it's not going to look nice either. So once you've added your new ball of yarn and you finish that first row, the one problem that you will have is that because they're not attached to anything, they could pull loose. So all I do here is I just pull them snug, just normal snug, and I tie them in a snug little bow that's temporary. And that's gonna kind of hold everything, the tension nice. And then when I'm done knitting, I'll untie that very easily and weave in my ends. So I'm gonna quickly knit one more row and then I'll show you how to bind off. Do we have any questions while I'm working to the other side? What questions?
Watch this. Do you have to knot the tail? So right, you just knotted it so that they won't get in the way, but later on when you weave them in, do you typically knot them for security or do you just weave them in?
No,
You don't want to make any extra bulk.
Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to bind off and then I'm going to show you how to weave them in. You don't want to tie knots in your work, and I know people really feel like they need to, but knots will come untied. I know you don't think they will, but they will. They will always work their way to the front of your work and people will see them and they will judge you. And so you want to make sure everything looks as nice and professional as possible, okay? I'll show you how to weave those in very nicely. And if you're giving this as a gift, or maybe you want to sell your work, maybe you're going to open an Etsy store and retire early. You want things to look as professional and as nice as you can. If you go to a nice store and buy a sweater or a scarf, you don't see any knots tied in them. Now, first I'm going to bind off and then I'll weave in the ends. So you can't just pull your needles out because these are all live stitches and they will come unraveled. So we have to secure each one. So this is also very, very similar to the knit stitch. You want to knit 2 stitches to start. And you do want to try to have a really loose hand with this because sometimes it can get very tight. So extra loose here. So you knit 2 stitches. You enter the first stitch. You stretch it a little bit. It jumps over the second stitch. It jumps off the end. You let it drop. And now I only have 1 stitch, but that stitch is not going to unravel because it's looped around this stitch. So it's very secure. So now I need 2 stitches. So I've got 1 and 2. So number 1, you stick your needle in there, you stretch it just a smidge. You want to hold the stitch. You don't want it to slip off by mistake. It jumps off the cliff and now you have 1 stitch. Now, when I first learned how to do the bind off, I would do it with my finger. So you can pull this with your finger and let it drop off that way. But the most important thing is you want to make sure this other stitch, you want to maintain that on your needle. And you can kind of let your needle just kind of push it up. You can use your finger. For some reason, that was much easier when I learned it. Or you can use your needle. Are you able to see this clearly? Is it showing on the video? I'm never sure if it's showing on the video clearly or not for people.
Yeah, it's showing. Just I know somebody wanted to see a repeat of the 2 stitches, but you're doing it, so it's good.
Yeah.
So you're
So I can
basically
see-
you're dropping one off, but you got to make a new stitch so that you can
Yep.
drop off the next.
So I have 1 stitch, I need 2, so I'm going to do a second stitch. You only ever want 2 at a time. So 1, 2, and then you take that one, and now I only have 1, so I need 1 more to make 2. And there are other cast offs, there are other bind offs. You might have knitting friends that'll show you a new way. Learn every way you can, because there's always more fun things to learn. Okay. Now that's one of the best things about knitting and crochet is you can always learn, there's always new things to learn and better ways and sometimes worse ways, but all right. So remember, I said you always need 2 stitches, but what happens when you get down to just the very last stitch? And this should look really familiar to people that crochet. So that looks kind of like your single crochet edge, right? If I were going to crochet, I would go right through here to make my crochet. So this looks like the edge of a single crochet, and I only have 1 live stitch. So that's pretty much a crochet looking piece right there. If you crochet, you might see that. So you're going to cut your work, leaving enough of a tail for finishing. And then all you're going to do is you're going to pull that straight up until that comes through. And then you're going to just look at it, make sure everything's nice and secure, and we're done. Now we have to weave in our ends. So we're going to untie this, just untie that temporary little bow, and you can go ahead and kind of, look at it and make sure everything looks nice. It didn't, your little bow didn't become a problem. Okay, so this is it's called a large-eyed blunt needle because it has a large eye and it's blunt, it's not sharp. We're going between the strands of yarn, we're not going to pierce them. So sometimes if you can't get your needle to thread, if you just wrap a little piece of paper around your yarn, then it goes through much, much easier. My mother taught me this.
Ooh, I did not know that one, Darren. Look at
Very
that.
nice.
Learned something new today.
Right. So now if you look, I'm doing this with 2 colors on purpose so you can kind of see. So the stitches kind of look like little C shapes, like this one and this one. They kind of make a wavy line if you look at them. Sometimes you might think it looks like a smile, and this looks like a frown. But it's kind of a C shape, and they fit together like this. They kind of fit together. So we're going to look at that and use that to help us. So the needle, we're always going to take it in the opening of the C, in the kind of the concave side. So we're going to go up, and then we're going to go down. And you don't want to pull this tight. You don't want to distort your fabric. You want to make sure you're not adding any kind of extra texture or distortion. And do a couple of stitches, check this side. You want to do this on the wrong side if there's a wrong side, so make sure you're looking at the right side and you're not doing anything weird. Pull it up, down. And as you're learning, you might, just stop and kind of give it if you get nervous and you see what happened, I pulled it too tight. That was awful. But look, you can just massage it right out. No harm done. And then we're going to, might have to use my paper trick again. I got it. So, and then once you do that, you want to go to the next row down or up, and you're just going to do the same thing. You want to go about 2 to 3 inches one way, and about 2 to 3 inches the other way. And if your tail's too short, one thing you can do is you can weave your needle. Like, see, I'm weaving my needle. See, I weave my needle, and then you just pull it through all in one, because sometimes the tail gets too short and it's hard to work with. So just give it a little snug to make sure it's not pinching your fabric, and then cut it off flush. And that's all you have to do. You don't want to tie any knots. And if you're feeling very, very insecure, you can go over, down, and then back over, but you really don't even need to. I've been knitting for 20 years and I've never had anything unravel by doing that. Okay, any questions?
Nothing yet. So we've got about 12 minutes.
So now we're going to review this pattern quickly, and I'm going to show you a few finishing techniques. So we do need to move on quick. This is a free pattern from Lion Brand. You can always print a copy for free. It's called the Lion Brand Heartland Thick and Quick Knit Level 1 Cowl, or you can type in this number. So you can always find it on the web page. It's a beginner pattern. This gives us the size it's going to be. The materials are actually calling for a different yarn and a different needle size. Now, I did that on purpose because for a scarf or a baby blanket, it doesn't really matter if your project is a little larger or a little smaller. So I like to start my students off right from the very first day, breaking the rules and making up their own way to do things, just to give you permission to do it. So this yarn is a number 5, and I'm going to use a yarn that's a number 6. And this yarn calls for a size 11 needle, but I'm going to use a size 13, which matches the yarn I've chosen. Now, the one thing you do need to make sure is that this is calling for 1 ball of Heartland Thick and Quick. It's going to have a certain amount of yardage on it. So you want to look up that yarn. If you're changing yarns, look up the original yarn, find out how many yards are on it, and just make sure the yarn that you're using has enough yarns. You might need to buy 2 balls of yarn to match that. So they all have different numbers of yards. We're not going to worry about gauge, because all gauge means is if my stitches are the exact same size as the designer stitches, then my piece will be the exact same size. Now that's going to become very important later when you want to make a sweater or something that needs to be an exact size, but that's not what we're going to worry about today. So for the cowl, we cast on 28 stitches. Now, the one thing it did not tell us to make a slip knot, right? But that's part of the cast on. So you make a slip knot when you cast on 28 stitches. So we know how to do that. We're going to work in garter stitch. That means we're going to knit every stitch on every row. That's easy. We know how to do that. We're going to do that until the piece measures about 32 inches from the beginning. So you're going to measure it right from the very edge of the cast on until it's, maybe yours is 29, maybe yours is 33, maybe you want to get 2 balls of yarn and make it 60 inches so you can wrap it around. You know, it's up to you. This is your piece. And then you're going to bind off and cut your yarn. But in this situation, you're going to leave a 20-inch long tail. And the reason is we're going to use that tail for seaming. So you want to leave an extra long tail for this situation. In other situations, you will too, but if the pattern will tell you. And then for finishing, I'm going to show you how to finish it. So I have one here that is not finished. So I just wanted to show you this too. This one is made with 1 yarn, and this one is made with a different yarn. And this one's a little looser. So sometimes your tension will be a little different with different yarns and different needles. But guess what? It's fine because it's a scarf, and you know it's not going to make any difference. Again, if it were a sweater, then it starts to become very important at that point. We're not making sweaters yet. So what you want to do is lay your piece out so that it's flat. You want to fold it in half and make sure it's laid out perfectly flat. And it wants you to put a twist in it. So it's going to say put 1 twist in your cowl. So all you're going to do, let me so you can see it. So it's laid out perfectly flat. All you're going to do is you're going to just twist it 1 time. And that's going to put this Mobius twist in it. Now, I personally don't care for that twist. So I would probably not do it. So I really don't like to do what I'm told at all. So I would probably leave mine flat. But for the sake of argument, we're going to put our twist in it as instructed. And now we're going to be worried about these edges up here. And because knitted fabric and crocheted fabric can be very stretchy, sometimes when you're working, you're sewing, everything's perfect, you're having a delightful time, and you get to the end and it's like, well, they were the same size when I made them. How could they be different sizes? Well, sometimes they stretch. And to help avoid that, one thing you can do is just, if you have clothespins, you can use clothespins. You can pin them with like a bag, like a clip for potato chips or something. But this will help keep you from stretching it. And that's, it's an opportunity to avoid a mistake. So this is what you would seam it with, this long tail. but I'm going to use a different color so you can see what I'm doing, but you would not want to do that in real life. Or maybe you would, but I mean, it's not going to look as nice. All right, so pretend that this is connected. So this is connected, this is my tail. And if you're nervous about seaming, and I'm just going to move that. If you're nervous about seaming, you don't like to sew, don't worry about it because this is very easy. So if you look along this edge, you can see these knit stitches. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see each one of them. And on this side, you can see each one. So we're going to use those to space our stitches out the same distance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go under, and you can see I'm only picking up 2 strands of yarn. And then we're going to go to the other side, and I'm only picking up 2 strands. And then we're going to move to the very next stitch. And so you're going to pick up 2 strands, and you're going to pick up 2 strands, and you're going to go back and forth like this. And this way, your stitches will all be spaced out the same distance, and they will all be going the same depth. And that is what's going to make your stitches look very neat. And because you'll be using the same color yarn, even if they're not so neat, they'll still look nice. Okay. And if they don't look nice, and you can wear it a couple times and you'll be like, yeah, I think I can do better. You could sew buttons along that seam to hide it, or you could take that seam out and redo it. Knitted and crocheted fabric are very forgiving, and even if you stretch it out a little bit and it looks like it's been, manhandled, you can always just like spray it with some water and let it rest, and it'll go right back to shape. Any questions about the seaming? This is called a running stitch or a basting stitch. I'm just going from one side, I go through this side, out the other side, and then I go back in the same side I came out to the next side, and I'm joining them in that way. And you might want to stop every now and then and make sure it's still lining up nice. I like to hold mine when I'm sewing like this. I put my finger between the 2 pieces, and that way it helps me. Maybe you don't like that, but it kind of helps me to kind of see what I'm doing. If they're like this, then it's kind of, I feel like I'd get mixed up. Any questions about seaming it?
No questions yet, but they're loving the visual.
And then all you do once you're finished is you just weave in your ends like I showed you. I'm not going to do it because I need to take this seam out so that I can demonstrate the next class. But you would just follow this kind of little wavy line. You would just go across here, down, and then back, and trim your end flush with the fabric. And honestly, depending on how well, it sounds like everybody in this class is doing very well. Just practice a little bit. Maybe you'll be ready to start this later this afternoon. Maybe you'll start it tomorrow, but you can probably finish this by the end of the week, or maybe by this time next week, depending on how much time you have. And as you're practicing, if you do have questions, you can always contact me on Instagram. Maybe Giselle or Molly will put my name. It's Mr. M-I-S-T-E-R, Mr. Woolly Bear spelled out. And you'll see my picture. It looks it's a clear picture of my face. Or you can find me on Facebook, and it's just my name spelled out. Just send me a direct message if you have any questions. Sometimes the questions don't come up until you're actually working and you have it in your hands. So I don't want you to feel stuck or abandoned. I want you to be able to keep pushing through until you make some really great projects. So don't hesitate. I always like to take questions. Okay. Anything else, Giselle?
Yeah, someone you're a great teacher. Yes, you are.
I try very hard.
Someone just wants to know what to do with the ends.
And you just weave in the ends. Yeah, you just weave in the ends. See, the good thing about using the tail, this tail that your long tail, is you won't have to weave in the end on this side because it's already connected. So you'll use this to seam, and then you'll cut this. Once you get it over here, you only want to cut this to be manageable size. So you'll cut it so it's like maybe 8 inches or 6 inches long, and then you'll just weave it across this. Like here, you can go down, and then you only need to go like 3 or 4 inches. Like I said, if you're feeling really insecure, you can go across, down, and then maybe do 3 times, but you really don't even need to. Were you able to, was I off the edge? I'm sorry. You just want to go across on these ridges here. So you'll take it down, you'll go across, down, and then across. And if you're really worried about it, you can take it one more time, but you really don't need to. Just try to go to like 3 inches one way and then 3 inches the other way. Just kind of massage it out to make sure you didn't pull it too tight, and you'll have a beautiful cowl. These make great gifts. Holidays coming up. You've learned to knit at the perfect time. You could make 20 of these by it's time to give holiday gifts. So, and your holiday shopping's all done.
Mm.
Okay, anything else?
Why is a wooden needle? Someone just wants to know why you used a wooden needle versus, I guess, a metal
I
one
like
or
wooden.
a plastic.
So I like the wooden needles. Everybody's gonna pick their favorite needles. Some people like metal, some people like plastic. Wooden needles are usually less slippery, so I think they're good for beginners. If you have really slippery yarn, you might want to use less slippery needles. I have a friend that won't use bamboo needles. She'll only use needles made out of birch. Some people like rosewood. Everyone has very strong opinions. So, you'll find the needles that you like, but it's all personal. None of them are wrong. You can make your own choices. So, but I like the wooden ones.
Yeah, I do too. Or bamboo. I feel sometimes the plastic ones are too much friction with the yarn.
Yeah,
And the metal ones are way too slippery for me.
Slippery, and they kind of make clicking noises too. I don't know. You'll try different ones, and you'll decide you like a certain one, and you'll be willing to fight people over it. So
right. So definitely buy one set first and one material, and if you really versus trying another one and another before buying a whole set.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Which pattern? If you could just repeat the pattern one more time, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, if you want to look at it.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Line
Here's the number, if you want to write that number. And
yes.
this will be recorded, and you can watch it again tomorrow if you need any reviews. But yeah, this is and it's always available for free.
Right.
Great. Any other quick, we're just about out of time. So thanks for coming to class. Again, if you have any questions once you start practicing, don't hesitate to send me a direct message. And don't just keep practicing. That's when the learning happens.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Aaron. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Mhm.